I never believed in haunted dolls. I always thought it was just something out of horror movies or made-up stories. But that all changed when I brought home a small, cute-looking doll for my daughter Lily. It was a gift for her 5th birthday, and she was overjoyed when she saw it. She named the doll Rosie and took it everywhere she went. But as days went by, strange things started happening around the house. At first, it was just small things like the TV turning on by itself or the lights flickering in Lily's room. I brushed it off as a faulty electrical system or some prank by my husband. But as the days passed, things got worse. Rosie started moving on her own. I would put her in one corner of the room, and the next thing I know, she's on the other side of the room. Lily started complaining that the doll was talking to her at night and she was scared to be alone in her room. One night, I woke up to the sound of glass shattering. I ran to Lily's room to find the window broken and Rosie lying on the floor, her eyes glowing in the dark. I picked her up and put her back on the shelf thinking that maybe Lily had knocked her off while sleepwalking. But things didn't stop there. Objects would move on their own and we would hear footsteps in the house when no one was there. My wife started to get worried and we both started researching about haunted dolls. What we found was horrifying. There were stories of dolls that had caused chaos and terror in people's lives. Some dolls had even been responsible for deaths. We knew we had to get rid of Rosie, but every time we tried, something would stop us. One day, we came home to find our house in complete disarray. Furniture was overturned, pictures were smashed, and Rosie was nowhere to be found. We searched the house frantically, calling out to Lily, who was nowhere to be seen. We finally found her in the basement, huddled in a corner, her eyes wide with fear. She told us that Rosie had told her to do all these things and that she had seen her moving on her own. We knew we had to act fast. We found an expert on haunted objects who could help us. He performed a ritual to exorcise the spirit from the doll, and we watched in horror as Rosie's eyes turned black and smoke rose from her body. After the ritual was done, we burned the doll in the fireplace, and a strong gust of wind blew through the house. We knew then that the spirit had left and we were finally safe. But the memory of Rosie and the terror she had caused us still lingers in our minds. We learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of bringing haunted objects into our homes, and we vowed to never let it happen again. As time passed, I started to feel like I was losing my mind. Every time I saw Rosie, my heart would race and my palms would sweat. I felt like she was watching me, judging me, and waiting for me to make a mistake. One night, I woke up to find Rosie sitting on the edge of my bed, her eyes fixed on me. I screamed and woke up my husband, who grabbed the doll and threw it out of the room. We thought it was over, but it was just the beginning. The next morning, we found the doll back in Lily's room, sitting on the shelf like nothing had happened. We tried to get rid of it again, but it seemed to have a life of its own. We would throw it away, and it would come back the next day. Things got worse when we started hearing voices in the house. They were faint whispers at first, but they grew louder and more urgent as the days went by. They would come from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. My husband started to become more and more distant, and I could see the fear in his eyes every time he looked at Rosie. We both knew that we needed to do something, but we didn't know what. One night, I woke up to find Lily's room in complete darkness. I felt my way to her bed, only to find that she was gone. I panicked and searched the entire house, calling out to her, but there was no answer. I finally found her in the basement, sitting in front of the doll, her eyes glazed over. She was speaking in a language I didn't understand, and I could see Rosie's eyes glowing in the darkness. I knew then that we were in serious trouble. I called a friend who was into the paranormal, and he recommended an exorcist who could help us. We had no choice but to try. The exorcist arrived, and he immediately sensed the presence of evil in the house. He performed a ritual that lasted for hours, and we could feel the tension in the air as he worked. The walls shook and the lights flickered, but we knew that it was working. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the exorcist declared that the spirit had been expelled from the doll. We all breathed a sigh of relief, but we knew that we weren't out of the woods yet. We burned the doll in the backyard, and as it burned, we could hear a faint, distant scream. It was a sound I will never forget. We all stood there, watching the flames, and we knew that we had survived something truly terrifying. In the days that followed, we felt like we had been given a second chance. We were all closer than ever, and we knew that we could overcome anything as long as we were together. We learned a valuable lesson about the power of evil and the importance of family, and we vowed never to let anything like that happen again.